I just love that clip of the sea at night. It was the inspiration for my last video, and the result is here. This is the painting of the photograph taken from that clip, painted on white paper. And at the time in last week's video, I said we would do the same subject but on black paper. And this is the subject of this video. It's going to be totally different and hopefully interesting. I'm Diana, I'm a watercolourist. I paint here in my gallery in southwest France. So follow me in the next few frames to see how we get on. It will be totally different, as I said, from last week's video. I'm interested to see how the two will compare when they're finished. If you haven't done so already, please don't forget to like and subscribe and leave any comments you may have. So let's get started. This is the original photo, the inspiration for the picture that I did in the last video. And this is the finished painting on white paper of the seascape at night. Now I want to reverse the whole thing and use the black paper here to create the same image. The method of working will be totally different, because instead of keeping the light as we did in the last challenge, now we have to add the light. And so the first thing I need to do is to use white watercolour crayon to draw the essential parts of the image, the line of houses along the promenade, the horizon line, an indication of where the surf is. And then I'm going to follow it up by using titanium white watercolour. So this will be a totally different process. I do have the same palettes that I used to create this image, transparent orange, transparent yellow, and my mix of burnt sienna and ultramarine blue. But this is going to be a totally different method of working, another adventure. Not sure how it will turn out. It will be different, but it will be interesting to see how the two images compare when they're both finished. So let's paint. Watercolour crayon we can use on black watercolour paper, just as we would use a pencil on white watercolour paper. This we can rub it out if we make a mistake. It rubs out just in the same way as you would with an ordinary pencil. And as you can see, I have defined the horizon line and drawn the promenade, and now I'm adding shading using the side of the watercolour crayon to create the idea of the surf. Not only does this give me an idea of where to put the paint, but it gives an initial effect as to the effect that I want to create. And I can use the watercolour crayon to put in all the light that we need to have in this image, working in the reverse of what we did with the white paper, where we had to keep the light. I'm just trying to put in all the little swirls of foam as the tide comes into the beach. Now the first thing that we're going to really do afterwards is to do the sky. And you'll notice on the image, which is just out of shot just now, but the lighter part of the sky is down on the horizon line. And so now I'm just wetting that area with clean water running along the top of the colour pencil, the white watercolour pencil that I've done, adding more water now to the top of the, right up to the top of the paper, because I want the whole thing to be wet. The water that I applied first of all near the horizon line will move some of the white watercolour that I have there. And now I'm adding my titanium white paint quite generously. You need to work with a generous amount of white watercolour paint. Titanium white is the best to use. And I've taken it all the way along the horizon line and now just wetting it so that it gradually washes up into the sky. Because, as you may recall, higher up in the sky we can see the midnight blue. And so this is difficult to achieve when your paper is black for a start. So you have to add lighter colour before you put the colour in. But now I'm dropping some of the blue, which is the ultramarine blue, and a little hint of Payne's grey. I'm letting it wash back into the white. This gives a lovely effect. I've noticed as well that working on black paper, it's less necessary to work too much with the paint, and it's just better to leave the colours to combine themselves. As you can see, I've already added titanium white to the horizon line, the points of light on the horizon and the promenade. And now I'm going to start to deal with the sea and the surf. And the first thing I'm going to do is to put a generous layer of not Payne's grey, ultramarine and burnt sienna all over the area where I have put the white watercolour crayon. You can see that the marks of the watercolour crayon are already showing through this coat of paint because it's absorbing the water, and that's why you have to be generous with the and it's quite a concentrated covering of blue and burnt sienna. This is the basis for our sea, but I want it all to be wet, generously wet. We're not going to lose that white crayon. It's still there under the surface, as you can see. And now I'm going to go to the titanium white and my liner and start to generously add the surf. Be brave with this. Don't hold back, because you need that generous helping of white paint. You can't be timid with it. It'll just disappear if you are. I'm moving it a little with the brush as I go, but adding it now to the main area of the swell of the sea as it comes down to the foreground. It's quite random really, but it's very strong colour, and the liner brush is delivering it in waves. Well, it would need to be, wouldn't it? But there you see, sometimes I put the colour on intensely and then just wash it out. The tip of the liner is very good for doing the little squiggly lines, but the key is to be brave. It will seep into the black paper and it will be less defined and less pronounced. So it is important that you are brave. Now, in the areas which I have left without colour, I'm now going to add more of the burnt sienna and ultramarine, and this has the effect of running into the white and giving us a lovely feathered effect. Now you can see it's totally dry, and the white areas of the surf have kind of soaked into the black of the paper, so I will have to revisit this area. But for the moment, the first thing that I've done today is to add some colour to the promenade, and I'm now going to put a wash. I have some white crayon here on the sandy beach, which shelves quite steeply. And I'm going to wet the area now with a mix of burnt sienna and ultramarine blue, which won't really make much impact on it, but if I'm going to wet it, I could use clean water, but I think a brown wash will work okay. Just to move the white crayon that's lying there, which will give me a hint of the colour, to take it down towards the reflections, because this area will be the next area that we will deal with. I just want to get this in position first. Just come back to meet the colour there. And now with my liner, I'm just going to add a hint of white, just in some areas. Not too much because the area is actually dark, but I want to be able to see the brown of the sand. So I'm just taking it across like this, down. We see how much we've lost the brilliance of the white here. So the same thing will happen with this sandy area. Just add a hint of orange here. One thing I'm learning about working with this black paper is it changes so much when it's drying, and I can always move it with the acrylic brush if I don't like it when it's dry. So I'm just going to leave it like this with that hint of white and see how it dries. I'm now turning my attention to the area where we see the reflection of the lights on the promenade in the wet surf and the wet sand. And as you can see, I'm using the liner to reinforce the watercolour pencil drawing by adding white watercolour to the lights and the reflection. Again, I must emphasise, be generous with the paint. Paint with it a thicker consistency than you would normal watercolour. I'm following the lines that I put onto the paper with the watercolour crayon, coming down towards the foreground, increasing the size of the lines as I go, keeping them nice and wiggly, not straight. And now I'm thinking of adding some colour, so I'm going to my yellow palette, adding a mix of yellow and transparent orange. I'm adding the colour onto the white paint so that it mixes and combines, because I still want to keep the darker areas dry. I want that contrast between the light and the shade. I'm still using that combination of orange and transparent yellow, and just little spots of yellow on the light reflections. You can see how much the white of the surf has dried. So now I must go back, again generously, reinforcing the white areas. using a larger brush this time because I really want to go to town with the application of the white paint. But I am leaving areas dry. Now we're really trying to get the white highlights of the surf. Don't be too stuck on following the detail in the photograph. It would be impossible if you tried to do that. Just concentrate on making it as wiggly and as frothy as possible. That liner brush makes a really good job of the wiggly bits. And enjoy it. It's good to be able to apply paint with such freedom, not have to worry. Now I'm moving a little bit of it with the yellow acrylic brush, just to soften the lines. Any lines that are too harsh and too angular, we want to just soften and blend. And this is exactly what I'm doing here with just a damp mop brush. Now it's looking more like foam. Adding a few more white highlights. I think it's a slightly foamier sea than the one we did last week, but that's okay. Just enjoying it too much, I think. Use the side of the liner brush as well. And now it's dry. And what I want to do is to add a wash, a very diluted wash of burnt sienna over the foam to just give it that orangey browny look, which we see in the photograph. Not being too generous with it. I don't want to lose the white. I just want it to have that brown tone. And also move the line of surf so it's a little bit softer. Taking it into the darker area on the left-hand side. Just a few more touches of contrast in the darker areas. And I think it's about time to stop. You can always do too much. Yes, I think we're about there. So now we have our two seascapes finished. One on white paper, the other on black paper. This one is still wet and the colours will dim a little, go lighter in some areas. And I had to work harder at adding the white. I hope you've enjoyed the two videos. Certainly it's been an education for me. I've enjoyed it. I enjoy the different techniques we've had to use for both images. If you haven't done so already, please like and subscribe, and I really would appreciate any comments you may have as to whether this video has helped you at all or inspired you to have a go. And so until the next time, happy painting. Bye.